Today, I'd like to talk about connection. Last week, we were thinking about our connection to God, and we were thinking about the fact that content is something that we've had to work very hard on. Many churches have since the outbreak of COVID-19. But our connection to each other is also of vital importance. It's something that we really are going to have to work at because we can't meet in our buildings anymore, can we? So I would like to encourage us with John 15 and particularly verses 5 to 8 this morning. I am the vine, you are the branches. If a person remains in me, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch which is thrown away and is going to wither. Such branches are picked up, thrown in the fire, and they're burned. If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish and it will be done for you. This is my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. Now, did you notice that? It says disciples. It's plural, not singular. So it doesn't mean your disciple. It's not a me and God relationship. This is a me and everybody else and God relationship. We're for community. We are actually built. We're expected to be part of community. And so when it talks about the fact that you are a branch, it doesn't say branch, it says branches. Again, plural, not singular. There are many branches around you. That is the idea. So we are to be connected to God's people. Now I understand, and we all are very aware of the fact that the options for connecting are very limited if you can't meet together in person. So we have to be very creative. We're going to have to use the digital media that's available. And I understand, and we understand, that some of us don't like using Facebook. Others have problems with Zoom. Others have strong objections to WhatsApp now. The list is almost endless, and there doesn't seem to be one common thing that everyone can necessarily agree on. But the question we have to ask underneath all this is, how important is it that we are actually connecting together? And the answer is, it is more important and more vital than our personal issues over data. It is like saying, what is more important, to have a relaxing time or to have oxygen? And the answer is oxygen. And connecting together is the oxygen. It's part of the oxygen of the Christian life. You need to be together. God has created you to be branches, not just branch, connected to Him. There is something deeply innate in all of humanity, isn't there, that says we need community, we need connection. Genesis 2, verse 18, very beginning of the Bible, God says it is not good for man to be alone. It's not good for Adam, the first person who He created, to be all solitary. And so, as we know, God creates Eve out of Adam. Now, the issue is about needing company. It's about needing to have others around us. It's about that sense of connectedness. Humanity is not supposed to be all alone. God Himself never was alone before anything was created. The Bible is very clear, Old and New Testament. It hints very strongly and shows us that there is God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, three and yet one. There is community within the Godhead. There was before the creation of the world. So there is no solitariness. God was never lonely. He was perfectly happy within Himself and content. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Therefore, each of us needs connection. Young people, sadly here in Spain, just looking at the news, interviews saying people are lonely, people are feeling solitary, and the situation is obviously with the pandemic that you can't be around people that you know or want to be with in the same way that you could before. There is a hole, there is a need for connection. If as believers we somehow put that off spiritually and say, no, I'll wait until the end of this crisis, until it's over, we are actually going to become not just spiritually solitary, because you can't really nourish a Christian life off of YouTube like this. It's very difficult. You need real connection with others. And so there's a real need that each of us has to connect together. What is the one book of the Bible that probably speaks strongest about connection? I thought about this a little while. And I think that this book, it's so poignant for today with all of the restrictions that we all face and the literal closing of so many church doors. It's the book of Numbers in the Old Testament. Now, Numbers was given its name because it has two census of the people of Israel, one in chapter 1 and one, I believe, in chapter 26. And God gets Moses and Joshua to number the people. Why does he do that? Well, one of the reasons perhaps is because he wants people to recognise that this people who were connected by blood, who he took out of Egypt, who weren't a nation, they were a people group and they were not really together, they become a cohesive, unified, connected people, nation, and they are connected vitally to Yahweh. As you look through the book of Numbers, you see the way in which God identifies them as tribes, and then within the tribes there are clans, and then the clans there are family groups, and it kind of trickles down in a most wonderful way, and it shows the connectivity, the connection of this people. These were a scattered people, enslaved in Egypt. They become a cohesive whole, they become a nation. God draws them together, they have identity, they are one together. The vital necessity of connection. You and I need one another. It's going to take more than just YouTube videos. We need to make a real effort to join together. Another thing that perhaps is very important that we ought to bear in mind is the way in which Jesus talks about what will happen in the future through books like Hebrews. Hebrews 10 verses 23 to 25, for example, let us hold unswervingly to the hope that we profess. What is the hope? The hope is that Jesus is coming again. We're going to be with God. Jesus is our elder brother. We're going to heaven. We're going to have fellowship with him and with his people. He has promised is faithful. Let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds. Now, if you're not communicating and connecting with each other, how on earth can you encourage one another to good deeds? It doesn't say, and please would the pastors spur everybody on to good deeds. Well, no. It says all of you. It is a body ministry thing, and that has to happen through vital connection. Encourage one another, all the more as you see the day approaching. Well, what day? In the Bible, in the New Testament, it talks about the day of the Lord. The day of the Lord is the day of judgment, the day of end, the time when Jesus comes back. Nobody knows when that's going to be. Jesus says he will come like a thief in the night. In other words, at a time when you least expect it, and completely silently and suddenly, boom, it will all be over. If there is a day to be more alert and to be more aware of what's going on, it is today. We do know in the end times there will be a mass falling away of believers. Well, this situation may not be the end time event, but it has resonance with that kind of thing where if we're not careful, we will fall away simply because we stop meeting together, we stop connecting together. It is a strong word. But these are days in which we have to stand. We have to actually make the effort. We're going to have to try as best we can in order to live through this period. Hebrews carries on in verse 36 and 37. So do not throw away your confidence. In other words, don't just leave your faith behind somewhere, for it will be richly rewarded. So there is gain to be made here. You need to persevere, verse 36, so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what he has promised. In just a little while, he will come, and he will not delay. And if you shrink back, then you will lose out. Every encouragement for us in the day of difficulty, in the day of trouble, like today, this is minor reflection in some ways. Now, for others, obviously, for health reasons, it's not. But in these days, brothers, sisters, friends, let's be encouraged. We need to press on in our faith and in the Lord. These are days of difficulty, but together we can actually come through them. Now, in some ways, it feels like each of us is in our own personal Noah's Ark, with the floodwaters all around. In other words, we have been separated and segregated by the pandemic. Governments very sensibly are saying, don't mix together. If you do, then you could end up in a bad situation and actually make it worse for your neighbour as well. And so the way that the virus works, obviously, is through our contact. Therefore, contact is limited, very limited. And it feels like a bit like Noah and the ark. Now is the time to actually dig in. We need to connect together. We need to stay connected. I just warmly encourage you to use the means that we have as church to connect up on Zoom, to the meetings, to prayer meetings, to other things like small group. If we can't do this, then we really are going to struggle. Really do recognise, just living through this past week on a personal note, all the restrictions that come in, they just cut your life up, don't they? They change the way that you do things. It takes time. You end up using your energy trying to work out how can I do what I normally do, and with all of these restrictions. But let's not just get stuck in those things. Let's actually give time for connection, time to fellowship, time for being together. Really pray God would bless you.